Hello YouTube, I'm back again with another comic review video, and this time I'm reviewing yet another one of my favorite comics. This is one that was kind of a random buy I found at the store. One of those books that was just like a really good buy for how much content I was getting for the money. I was at half price books yet again. And this time I'm going to bring it up. I found this monster, and this book is the collected edition of Scud the Disposable Assassin. If you're watching my figure review videos as well, I have a Scud the Disposable Assassin figure, which came from Shocker Toys line, and it's awesome because this book is awesome. I'm not quite sure what I got it for. It is a really hefty book. This is, like I said, the collected version called the whole shebang. There's a couple different versions of the whole shebang, but basically this is just the one I happened to find. There's like a hair stuck in the book. There we go. I'm trying to see what list price. List price for this is $30. I think I got it less than that. I'm not sure, but it might have been $15. So anyway, I'll just flip this over to the back so we can see an image of Rob Schrab, if I'm saying that correctly. I'm pretty sure I am, of the writer-artist. This guy back here, dressed like a woman with a puppet of some sort. He's kind of crazy. This book, I kind of want to say it's a comedy at its heart, but not really. It's kind of a lot of things. It's an action story, it's a ridiculous, bizarre story, and it's really just having fun in comic form. And it's really crazy what all goes down in this. And eventually, I tell this to some of my friends who haven't read this yet, and they still don't believe me because they haven't read this. I think this series has possibly the best tie up all the loose ends ending to a comic I've ever read. Which is crazy coming from a silly comedy. Scud the Disposable Assassin. So, as I'm talking about the actual story for what's going on in all this nonsense here, I'm going to flip through, well actually, you know, before I put this down, I'm going to show you some of the art, but I actually have all of the single issues from Scud that I found and collected later after reading this monster and just loving it. Found a huge chunk of them at half price, and then I just tried piecing the rest of them together from, you know, using eBay and stuff like that. So, anyway, here's an image we have here of Scud, and it's a big black and white comic. I'm pretty sure Rob Schrab does the art consistently through the whole thing. There are some co-writers who jump in, who give him a hand with it, but issue 1 is just him, I know, and basically just to get an idea what happened for this series, because something really weird happened. So he makes the comic, you know, it's all bizarre, a bunch of crazy things are happening. I'll give you an idea of like what's going on with the story later, but he gets to a point where it's, let me see, issue, I think, 19? Yeah, he gets to issue 19, and he ends it on a bit of a spoiler. I'm sorry, a cliffhanger, and doesn't really make the next issue for a while. And eventually, 10 years after making, I'm pretty sure it is 10 years from what I've checked, after making issue 19, he makes issue 20. And he wants, I'm pretty sure it was his wife actually who convinced him to go back and finish that series, because he ended this really fun comic. It's really ridiculous, really bizarre, and really funny. It's pretty offensive too, it might be for some people. There's like a lot of, some jokes might offend some people, but the thing is, if you're just open-minded, it's too hilarious to care, and it doesn't really matter. So, what I'm trying to say is, eventually, I think the base concept for the story for him, he related to before he was with his current wife, or with his wife, not, I think he had girlfriend problems, which somehow spawned this story, which, whatever. He was also a comedian with another group, I forget the name, but anyway, side story. So, with his wife, she convinces him to go back and try and save this story. Not really save it, but just finish it, because it really is a great lead up to something, but he didn't really know what to do. When he finally got an idea of how to end it, it was first one issue, and then it somehow turned into 2, and 3, and then 4 issues came out of that one story for the ending. And believe me, like I said, I think it's one of the best endings to a comic I've ever read. And that's saying a lot. So, anyway, this is the first issue here. Like I said, just Rob Schrab. Now, the comic's story is basically some guy needs to have somebody else killed, and he has... I'm not going to get too much into that because it's really not necessary. He goes to a vending machine and buys a Scud, a disposable assassin. In this world, you can purchase assassins for 3 francs, which are like little Frankenstein coins. And it comes out, and he's like, alright, well, who do I gotta kill? And the guy tells him, so he goes off to... And this whole issue is basically him going off to kill Jeff, which is an awesome villain, who ends up being like a horseman of the apocalypse or something like that. But Jeff is like a composite monster of like mousetraps and squids, and it's just a mess of things. And like somehow, like if an arm is severed, it can replace it with like anything, like a crane it gets replaced with in here. I'm pretty sure eventually it gets replaced with the back of a horse, and it's just bizarre. And at one point during the fight in this issue, first printing by the way, super awesome that I got the entire first printing of the set. Scud finds out in a bathroom as he's cleaning up that he sees on his back that it says, attention, or something like that, this unit will self-destruct upon termination of its target. And Scud's like, whoa, no, not doing that. So what he decides to do in this issue is he shoots off every limb of Jeff and then calls up the hospital. And the rest of the series is basically him trying to keep Jeff alive on life support. And he's trying to get other jobs to try and get the money to keep Jeff alive in this hospital somehow. And things go wrong, like Jeff eventually like breaks out. I'm pretty sure Jeff is a girl, and looks nothing like not even a creature. It's like its face is a spark plug. Totally crazy. It yells out of its knees, and it has hands for feet. It's just the most bizarre thing in this super bizarre world. I'll just keep going through some of these comic covers. It's really a crazy series, and when I was going into it with the whole shebang, which I would recommend buying it through the whole shebang. I just got the issues just because, you know, I found like, I want to say like 18 of them in the clearance section of the single issues at Half Price Books, and I was like, yes, they were like $1/4 each, so I was just stacking them up. They're all in great shape, and I'm like, yeah, I'm packing these in. But unless you ran into a situation like that, I would read the whole shebang. It's kind of funny to say that, but I'm referring to the whole shebang as the actual book called The Whole Shebang, not the whole shebang is to read the entire series. But it is the entire series. Although there is one section that is actually left out of this that I don't know if I get in the issues or not. I haven't actually flipped through all of them to find it. But supposedly there is a side series with a couple characters who Scud meets along the way, people who he's trying to pay, or who are paying him to protect certain other people, some of the jobs he's doing eventually. And they have their own short mini-series, and there's actually a page in the whole shebang where Rob's complaining, jokingly, to us, saying that the publisher didn't allow him to have the whole that section put into the book as well, because it technically isn't Scud. The title was not Scud the Disposable Assassin, so it's not really in there. It doesn't seem to be necessary to the story, It's just he does say eventually they're going to show up in this later story, and you're going to be like, why are they here? How did they get here? Where'd this one guy come from? So it's like a bunch of things that you don't really know about, but he does justify it in the book. Oh, this is Jeff. There we got a shot of Jeff. I didn't know if Jeff was ever on a cover. And like I said, Jeff changes all the time, so you never really know what Jeff actually looks like. I've never seen a colored Jeff either, so that's kind of interesting. Black Magic Woman, because of course, Jeff is a woman. This book is absolutely ridiculous, and I go through it, you know, just reading. Like I said, I just got it just because it was kind of a good deal. And it is surprisingly great. It's a really good book. Okay, it starts really ridiculous, and it's just kind of fun, stupid humor, and it just does a lot of ridiculous things, a lot of crazy characters. I love the side story, or not, actually it's not really a side story, but a story where Scud ends up having his arm destroyed, and he needs a new arm, and his only replacement arm he can get is like a human-looking arm, which turns out later to be from a werewolf, and he's trying to recover his original arm, and he has like this werewolf arm that he has to like feed sandwiches and things like that. It's just a really hilarious comic. The art on some of the later covers in particular are just amazing. They were all commissions. The final 4 issues, like I was telling you about, that took the 10-year hiatus, those are all commissions, and they're all amazing. So some of these issues, covers, I never got to see from reading the whole shebang, so it's kind of awesome to get to see them through here. There are a couple other side series to Scud that I've been finding at some comic stores. I have a couple of them down below. This cover is actually sideways. I have a couple of them saved with my singles, and they don't seem to be either written or drawn by Rob Schraub, and they aren't that great. They're just kind of weird, kind of like as if this was that popular and people really loved it that much to make other series for. I mean, this really is really good, but I didn't really expect someone to go totally berserk and, you know, make a whole side series about it. Now we're getting to some of the interesting covers later. This series really gets nuts. Let me see. I think this is the one issue that I was telling you about. Actually, it has a sticker up top. I don't know what that's for. This must have been one of them I had to order. Where some of these other characters show back up again, and you were like, why are you here? I should have known about that, but probably in the single issue, I will find out why that happened. So, as a just general review of the whole series, which is 24 issues long, like I said, it's really ridiculous, it's really hilarious, and offensive, so it's kind of hard to just, I don't swallow all that, but the series is just really fun. But there's some things where you gotta be a little lenient towards it, like this is God here, and heaven's been breached, so someone has like chained him up somehow in some giant concoction, and it gets a little demented, but funny demented. So like there's some comics I have that are screwed up, just like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with this guy? And this is one of those books where you read like, there's something clearly wrong with this guy. Now we're starting to get into some of the commission covers I really like. This is part 1 of his End series. There's actually, yeah, finally, the spine-crushing megadose of Scud-tastic awesomeness is back. This is the first issue after the huge hiatus, which I guess I messed up. It was issue 20 that he stopped on, because it's a 4-part ending issue. The characters in this are just hilarious, and eventually when you get to this 4-part ending, it's still the same hilarious, you know, fun comic, but it's like he's tying everything up at the same time and justifying a lot of things. People are changing in ways that, you know, like, oh wow, I kind of feel bad seeing what happened to, say, Drywall, a side character, and there's some really smart moves that he does with the story itself. Here's an awesome image with Scud and Jeff. And I don't want to say anything about the ending because, like I said, I think it is one of the best, if not the best, ending for a comic book I've ever read. So, kind of hard to just, upfront say that, especially in a book where it can be, so crazy and offensive and it's like a comedy. Why would you expect it to have, like, that great of an ending? But the only person who, a friend of mine, who I actually got to read this, who he likes, just comedy comics, and I said, hey, you should really read this one because it's really funny, it's really fun, and the ending's actually really nice, it's really good. And he read through it and he was like, yeah, you're right. That is probably the best ending for a comic I've ever read. There's some of my other friends who read comics that they just don't take that seriously at all, which, I mean, you can't really. How do you take this comic seriously? It's the whole story about this disposable assassin trying to stay alive by keeping the target he's supposed to kill alive in, like, a hospital, and a bunch of weird stuff shows up eventually, like the Horsemen of the Apocalypse are supposed to be, taken over, and heaven gets breached, and a bunch of crazy nonsense like that werewolf story I was telling you about. The book is... Alright, sorry about that cut. My camera ran out of battery once again, so I'm trying to get that all sorted out, but anyway, just wrapping up with Scud the Disposable Assassin, I would definitely recommend this book to people who are open-minded to getting religious jokes. Sorry about the dog. Religious jokes, there's things that may offend some people, but if you're not, like, easily offended or anything, this is still a really hilarious book. I would definitely recommend it. It's a great find for me just randomly stumbling across it because it's really not well known. But I would definitely say this is one of my favorite comedy series, and like I said before, best ending to a comic book I've ever read. So that is Scud the Disposable Assassin. Let me know what you think. If anyone has watched this review and read it, let me know below because I totally want to hear what you think. Some people, I'm sure, will be like, oh, that book was horrible, it pissed me off, it totally offended me and all this stuff, and some other people probably be like, yes, that was amazing, that was hilarious, I wish there was more. And I know that's just how it's going to go because that's just the kind of style of the book it is. It's kind of hard to pin down if, like, is this really going to be acceptable to give to some people. But anyway, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next video.